this year, we had a special chapel that told us about a way to memorize God's word through singing. And we had Mr. Newquist come and he spoke to us about singing God's word, putting it to music so that we could memorize and hide God's word in our hearts. And we've had a few classes working on chapters of the Bible throughout this year. So we wanted them to be able to showcase what they have learned. Mrs. Picking's class, they were working on John chapter 1. So we're going to have them come up and they're going to give a little portion of John chapter 1 this afternoon. And they've been working hard on this. I heard it last week as we were doing spotlights. They were doing a great job. So thank you, Mrs. Picking's class.
Believers, we sing John 1 together. Ready, begin. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him. Without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not comprehended it. There came a man sent from God, whose name was John. Now John came as a witness, that he might testify about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but was sent, that he might testify about the light. The true light that enlightens everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not recognize him. He came to his own, and those who were his own did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name. Children born not of blood, nor of the desire of the flesh, nor born of the will of man, but are born of God. And the Word became flesh, and he lived among us. We saw his glory, and the glory of the one and the only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified about him. He cried out, saying, "This is he of whom I said, he who comes after me has surpassed me, for he was before me." He existed before me. Yes, he was before me. He existed before me. And from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God, and at the side of the Father has made him known.
They have worked so hard this year throughout, practicing in the mornings, and downtime. I could hear them singing in the hallways. So what an accomplishment I think that is, to be able to memorize God's word in that way. And we are so thankful that the teachers took the time to help them with that. I also want to thank Mr. Newquist, because this was his vision. God had given him this idea and has given him the music and all of this, the talent to be able to do this, that we can enjoy and be able to learn God's word that in that way. So I just want to thank you so much, Dave, for doing that and following God's leading to do that. We appreciate that so much. Parents, families, if you want more information about singing God's word, there's information in the back when you leave, and there's YouTube's websites that you can follow along, and maybe as a family memorize part of God's word together this summer. That would be awesome.